Hello, this is Keep Listening to Me with Atlas Behavioral Health Consulting. And this is the second episode in the series regarding intentional empathy. Our first of the series was earlier this week about the 55-38-7 rule. And I hope you enjoyed it and you can go back and take a look at it at your leisure. But this is the second in the series. And this is about how are my emotions made? Yes, a very critical issue in empathy because empathy targets emotions and enhances them in multiple ways. And so we have to talk about where do our emotions come from in the first place. And I will tease you a little bit by saying that it's not what you think, it's not what you've learned, but I will explain more later. But first, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to this channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, helps us grow in leaps and bounds, but we need your help. I need your help to help us and so forth. But let's get into the topic of how are emotions made? How are they made? And so here's the central question here. Have you ever wondered where your emotions actually come from? Why would the same event can make one person laugh and another person cry? Same thing happens, but two different results depending on the person. You have been told, and we've all learned, I learned when I was in school, I learned when I was in college, that emotions are automatic reactions. But what if that's not true? What if your emotions are constructed, built, but not born? So by the end of our show today, not only we understand how your emotions are made, you'll walk away with tools to shape them and a perspective that could make you much more empathetic to others and including yourself. Here's the myth. The myth is that our emotions are reflexes, that we are prisoners of our own emotional reactions to things that happen around us in our lives. We hear people commonly say, "You made me angry. She hurt my feelings. That really triggered me." These reactions assume that external events directly cause emotional responses, just like flipping a switch. But research shows your brain is the one making meaning. It's not just reacting, it's interpreting. The classical view of emotion, that universal emotions with specific biological signatures, like facial expressions, for example, that has been largely debunked by current modern neuroscience over the last even 15 to 20 years, even longer than that. So if emotions aren't automatic reactions, then what are they? What's really happening inside your brain when you feel something? Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett is a professor at Northeastern University up in Boston. She's the most renowned researcher in the field of neuroscience and emotions. According to statistics in terms of research citation, she is in the top 0.1% of cited authors and professors, researchers in this field. She wrote a book about, I think, 7, 8 years ago, 2017, called How Emotions Are Made. She wrote another book called 7.5 Lessons About the Brain, which was released a few years ago. And in those two books, she cites very clearly her research and findings over decades in the field of how our emotions are created. The core theory is that emotions are not biologically hardwired, which was the thing that we were led to believe. They are constructed by your brain using prediction and interpretation. Now, think about it. Your brain predicts, it interprets based on what's going on. So here we have what is called the brain as predictive model, as Dr. Barrett has described it. Your brain is not a passive responder. It actively predicts what's going to happen next. Now, the brain is the most metabolically expensive organ in our body, and it constantly is regulating. Its primary job is to regulate our body, not to think. The most efficient way to regulate the body for the brain is to predict, not react. Before you fully perceive what is happening, your brain is already making educational guesses of what's happening in the environment. It draws these interpretations and guesses and predictions based on your past experience, cues in the body, and context in the situation. So let me repeat. It makes predictions, the brain makes predictions based on your past unique experiences, your own unique bodily cues, and the context of the situation that you are in the moment. Then what your brain does is it then prepares based on the prediction to prepare your body for action. This part is really, really important when we think about emotions and what we do with them. It prepares your body for action by sending resources like salt and glucose and endorphins and dopamine and things like that right into the body. It influences the perception that we have of itself. It predicts what you will see next, not the other way around. When input from the environment arrives, it is compared to the brain's prediction and then corrected if needed. So if something happens in the environment, our brain searches to see if this is something similar or the same as something that's occurred before in our past, and then predicts what will happen next based on those items, then sends resources. Emotions are a part of the prediction process. This is your brain's best guess as to what is going on, what is happening. So, what goes into an emotion in the first place? Let's break this down. Number one, inner body signals called interoception. The brain is monitoring bodily cues and tries to make sense of them. For example, a tight chest could mean fear, anxiety, it could mean excitement, it could be motivation. Number two, emotion concepts in culture. This is also vitally important. Your emotional vocabulary shapes the emotions you experience because we are all taught emotion word labels like anger and anxiety and happiness and joy. Different cultures also teach different emotional categories. There are some cultures who do not have words for anger or joy per se. They have different words to describe different things in their culture. And where we learn our culture and the words we're taught to apply to these sensations that are what we call emotions. Three is situational context. The same physical sensations can mean different things depending on the situation. Let's say you're going into a restaurant, you're hungry, your stomach is rumbling. Hunger. But let's say you are about to prepare for a big test or a big meeting with someone and your stomach is rumbling. What is that? Is that anxiety? Is that fear? Is that worry? What is it? Two different things based on the situation. The brain, number four, is the predictive processing aspect. The brain constructs the emotions as part of its effort to understand and respond to the world. So you don't just feel sadness, joy, and anger. You are constructing them using your past as a palette and the present as a canvas. So let me give you some tools to understand and shape your emotions. Number one, expand your emotional vocabulary. Because remember, we are taught the words that we use as labels to our emotions to give meaning to what is going on. And all those words have meaning. If we say that we're anxious, that has a meaning. But if we say that we're motivated, then that has a separate meaning. And it could be applied to the same physical sensation. Remember, it's predicting, the brain is. So you can expand your emotional vocabulary. Try asking yourself, was I annoyed? Was I embarrassed or just overlooked? I would suggest something called an emotion wheel for this process because each of the categories like anger and happiness and disgust, for example, are categories and then there's even subcategories. Those are the words you want to kind of try to find out about. Improve your interception. Number two tool is pay attention to what's going on in your body. Talked about this before, is what is physically going on with your body. Look at those sensations that you're having and what are the emotional labels you're putting on them. Three, manage what I would call and what Dr. Barrett calls a body budget because the body budget is like a bank account and you could be in the black or you can be in the red based on a lot of different factors like situation, stress, medical issues that could be happening. But your brain is constantly sending resources to parts of the body to take action. But each action that the brain is saying that we need to take is an expenditure, it's an expense. And after a while, we could run into a deficit. We could run into the red if we're expending out more resources than our brain has to regulate with. So, with that said, that's how things like depression start. When we're that's when someone is constantly in a body budget deficit where they've expended the resources and the brain is just predicting like the need to deal with that deficit. And therefore, that's why we're tired, worn out, don't want to see anyone, get agitated more easily, things like that. It's the way the brain is trying to resolve that deficit. Big issue number four in the tools here is name it to tame it. Okay. We can relabel our emotions. Let me give you a story real quick. When I was in high school, I ran track and cross country. And in my very first race, I had butterflies in my stomach. My stomach was churning and I thought I was sick. I thought I was nauseous. I went to my coach and said, "Hey, coach, I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm feeling these butterflies. I'm feeling nauseous and things like that in my stomach. I don't know what's going on." What he told me was, "That's adrenaline. That's excitement. That's motivation to start this race." That changed my whole perspective on what I was physically feeling at the moment. It changed the label, changed the meaning. And so it changed from nausea, feeling sick, not wanting to do this, to motivation. Same thing can be applied to anxiety, could be motivation. We can relabel it something else, give it a different meaning. So that's how we tame that emotional label and meaning for us. And doing that helps calm the brain down. Number five, granularity and mindfulness. Ask yourself when you're having these sensations and you're labeling them, what story is my brain writing right now? Try any grounding and breathing techniques to reset your emotional moments. Another thing I would add as a tool is learning. When we learn by action, by doing new things, that helps us retrain the brain that in certain situations where we felt anxious or agitated or confused, then we're retraining the brain to predict different things by creating new experiences for the brain to use as a palette, as we talked about before. And this is critical as well. So here's the big reveal at the end. How is it all made and how's this tied to empathy? The reveal is here's the big idea, right? Your emotions are not automatically hardwired and baked into your brain. They are constructed by your brain. They're not reactions, they're predictions. Your brain is predicting what it thinks will happen next, what you'll do next, and how you will react and feel next. And here's the shift. And if that's true for you, that is true for everyone else. That person who snapped at you earlier today or seemed snippy or out of touch to you may not be irrational at all. That person may not be irrational. They might be responding to a whole different emotional construction based on their history and what their body is feeling and receiving from their environment. Emotions are not universal. There's no sector of the brain for this and a sector for that. There's no universal facial expressions, even though we've been told otherwise. Emotions are not universal, they are personal. They are not weaknesses, it's part of being human. So I then challenge you this week when someone reacts in a way that frustrates or confuses you, pause, stop, ask yourself, what might their brain be predicting? What story might their body or past be telling them right now? And when you feel a strong emotion, try this, name it, be curious about it. What ingredients in your environment and in your past built that for you? Because the more you understand your own emotions, the more grace you can give to someone else's. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Please, in the comment section, provide feedback or your own stories. The next episode is coming up in a week, and we will expand on intentional empathy. But in the meantime, please, if you haven't done so already, please smash that like. Please subscribe to the channel. Please forward this on your social media, forward it to your friends if you think they would be interested. And this is Keep Listening to Me. This is Atlas Behavioral Health Consulting, and we are signing off for this particular episode. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next time.